Okay, hopefully this is working. Let's see. It's gonna be a little bit different than normal. Excuse me. We're trying something a little bit different. No one's watching this like no one watches all the others, so it's not really that big of a deal for me to switch what I'm working on and to do something else. So what we're gonna be working on today is we're gonna be talking about Pestigores. Now, Pestigores are Beastmen of Nurgle. Kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about. This is one of my Pestigores. You can see. Now, there's not actually a whole heck of a lot of lore regarding Pestigores. They were briefly mentioned back in the Rogue Trader days. And that one's actually kind of got a corn style horn, doesn't it? But they were said to be the main inhabitants of the Plague Planet, which is Nurgle's planet. And they manned his ships, and they manned his ships, and they fought in his armies. And they kind of just dropped off the face of the earth. Now, Pestigores have been around in the Warhammer Fantasy type venue for quite some time. But the... excuse me. And that's just not showing up very well, is it? Oh, well. I was trying to get the camera to focus a little better. Yeah, that's a little better. There you go. Essentially, the... in the Age of Sigmar, in the Warhammer Fantasy, Pestigores had more of an existence, right? They had more of a showing. Then they kind of dropped off the face of the earth with Age of Sigmar. And they recently made a comeback in the Beastmen Codex. There's a formation of Nurgle or something like that. I haven't played much with that. The new Beastman thing, but I was planning these before that. The needless to say, there's nowhere really for Beastmen in the Warhammer 40k universe anymore. They're there. Beastmen are there, and they just put Beastmen into was it Blackstone Talon or Blackstone Fortress, I think. But they're kind of considered a rarity in the 40k universe these days because of all the ethnic cleansing that was going on. They're accepted in the Empire. Beastmen are accepted within the Imperial forces in the Imperial Army, but they don't have any playable options. They're just kind of there. So, anyways, the reason we got into Pestigores is because of the Poxwalkers, which the Poxwalkers, they only have about 16 models, and so there's a lot of similarity and a lot of extras. You know, the stuff's a lot the same. And so what I wanted to do is give myself a little bit of mix up in the army. So not just using normal Pestigores, but normal Poxwalkers, but mix in some Pestigores and eventually some Ungors. Which Ungors are the big brothers of the regular Gores. They're bigger. Excuse me. I got a frog in my throat. So, nonetheless, I found a home for Pestigores in my army as Poxwalkers. So, first thing we're going to do is we kind of got to look at our Poxwalkers to decide which ones are going to fit our heads. Now, the heads I got from the there's a skulls packet that you can get from Warhammer 40k, and it has a bunch of these beast skulls, right? And there's a bunch of different options. This guy's a little too big. He's too big for what we're wanting to do. A lot of bird skulls. I wish they had cats, honestly, and wolves. That would be nice if they had those. There's some dragons and whatnot. Comes with a lot of skulls, and it comes with, like these, where it's mostly, these look like Khorne Berserkers, but I'm using them as Pestigores nonetheless, because, or Bloodletters, I should say, but, you know, whatever. These little guys, let's see if we can get it right up where it needs to be. Right there. See that little guy? That's actually closer to a Pestigore. So traditionally, Pestigores have a single horn. They're missing one of their horns. I don't remember if it falls off or what, but they kind of almost look like plague bearers to me. If you look at the old Poxwalker, and actually like these skulls, we'll use one of these today. Right, they get this camera to focus a little bit. So there's, yeah, come on, big guy. There you go. Yeah, you see that? So the so we'll end up using one of these sets. But what you got to look for with the Poxwalkers before you get started is some of these Poxwalkers have a bunch of crap coming off their shoulders, like this guy does here, where he has all these little guys. In the first couple conversions, I kind of learned to be careful about that. Now you can kind of get away with it. You see, like this guy, not too bad. And like this guy, he's got a tentacle coming out of his back. And those are fine. Those are fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert real quick one or two of these little guys. And then what we're going to do is we're going to work on fur for these little guys. Because these guys don't have any fur on them, so they need some fur. So we'll be doing fur on these two guys here in just a little bit. But for right now, we're going to convert probably this guy. Let's start with him, and let's start with our what looks to be a plague bearer skull. It'll be enough for us right now. So I always like to kind of size them up, make sure that things are going to work before I start mixing putty and things like that. The only thing about this particular skull is it's very human looking. I don't like that as much. Kind of need to draw out or elongate their skull a little bit when you're dealing with the Beastmen. So we're going to kind of look at how we can do that and see what else we can do. Yeah, you know what? We're going to hold on this head. I have a little bit better idea how I want to draw his head out. And I don't want to just be messing up bits. So we'll just go back to the good old-fashioned Beastmen head here. So we're going to go with this guy right here. So just so we can get an idea of what I'm putting on this guy. And big horns. I don't know where it's going to sit on these horns that long. Clean up what we're working with. A little bit of a don't want to leave any messes here. Make sure we don't have any mold lines. These new models are pretty decent. They don't really have the mold lines like the old ones did. Pretty clean. Sweet. Now we're gonna kind of fit it here. See how we want to do this. Does this have a lower jaw? It does. Okay. So I'm going to actually cut his head just a little high. So I'm going to get up in here and I'm going to cut his head just a tad bit high, maybe even at a slight angle. Reason is because I want to kind of support this beast head now. Now, always keep your bits, right? We'll find a new use for him, his head here in a little bit. And then we just take this right here, and we're gonna just set it right on top, just like that. Now, the beautiful thing about Nurgle, you can actually use a pretty decent, you can, using green stuff is relatively simple and easy when dealing with these guys. I just don't want to get, because it is super easy to overuse green stuff and make a mess of your model because it has too much junk on it. Always mix your green stuff really, really well. There you go. Now for most adhesive stuff I use green stuff, but I'll show you what else I'm using too. So you can kind of see what the plan is. Alright, so we got our green stuff down. We're going to come in here and we're going to just clean up this cut a little bit on this head here, so we're not playing games with it. Okay. Now, we're going to be using our deal here. So we seem to be zero watching. I lost my one watcher. That's a bummer. Let's see what happens here. I must have lost my moderator. I decided that I'm too lazy and boring to be of any concern. You don't have to worry about me too much. Just playing with little plastic dudes. So, not a lot to talk about with regards to Pestigore lore. They were highly valued within the Beastmen community. In the Warhammer Fantasy, Beastmen were very devout chaos worshippers. They were very proud of they considered themselves the embodiment of pure chaos. And pretty much anybody else was just a poser. And so Pestigores, being blessed by Nurgle, were considered some of the best and brightest. And, oh, I got my one watcher back. Yeah, that's fine. So we're gonna set this guy on here. And the problem, he needs to kind of sink into it. I don't like that. I like that better. Gotta sink into it a little bit. I take our tool. So do you see what I mean? What's happening here? The green stuff kind of moves around, and it's kind of getting there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our tool. We're just gonna pull it down and kind of push it up, so it kind of looks like flesh and muscle that got still part of the thing, but there's a hollow piece underneath the skull, so you got to fill that hollow with green stuff as well as not. So we spread it down to give it some strength, because the problem with these beastmen heads is they like to kind of a pain when it comes to staying where they're supposed to stay if you don't put the green stuff on right. But as you see, relatively simple conversion, right? We got a few more steps to do, but the big one, the most noticeable one, is going to be the Pestigore head. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually go in here and we're going to cut his feet off. We're going to take his feet from him, which these are the little slot deals, so it's kind of a little bit of tricky getting his foot off. So we're just gonna ease it off with the razor blade so we don't cut ourselves. There we go. Always save your bits. There we go. Now this one actually I'm gonna leave because you kind of see how his ankles set up. I can turn that into a hoof relatively easily. We're gonna rebuild some of that foot we just cut off. So the other beastmen really dig the Pestigores, who are known to be extremely resilient and heavy armored, more heavily armored than other beasts. That's because Grandfather blesses them, unlike the other beastmen who are undivided. Or technically you have beastmen of all of the major gods. You have blood gores, the change gores, which are the Zen gores or something like that. And then the slan gores are the beastmen of Slanesh. So there's a lot of yiffing going on over there. There we go. So he got himself a little hoof. So he's got his little hoof there. We gotta put another little hoof on his other foot. Don't use a lot of green stuff. It's kind of better to put a little bit on and then I'll shave it down or I'll shape it as I can, but I hate it'll kind of stick and move to other stuff. So you kind of want to, I tend to build up a little bit and then I'll tear it back down, but sometimes this stuff doesn't want to stick either. I wonder what's going on there. Probably starting to dry out a little bit. Get something more from the middle. You kind of got to work fast with green stuff. On here, sticky. Feels like you have big fat fingers. So you kind of got to, I use my tool for most things. There we go. Come in from this back side here. There we go. Build this up. You want the hoof to be relatively smooth because, you know, hooves are smooth. But when it sticks to the tool, it's kind of a pain in the ass. Get them smooth, and when your fat fingers go right on top of the brand new hoof. Good job, Tellyman. Here we go. Come on. Come back. Alright. Restart over with that one too. Yep. Fat fingers. There we go. I'm gonna break out the handy dandy paint holder so my fat fingers don't get involved in the so when you make a hoof, what you do, you just make a little dome right on their foot and you smooth it out. Right? Get it all smoothed out so it looks like it's coming out of the guy's leg. And you shape it, smooth it out, and make it nice and smooth. There you go. And then, once you have it all smoothed out, actually we're going to just use our finger for this because that might help with some of this. Smooth. You want to take the very end of the smoothed out section that you made, and you want to just kind of push it a little bit back towards the base, right? Smoothing it out again. You just want to push it back. There you go, like that. Yeah. By pushing it back, it kind of makes it bulge a little bit. You want that bulge. We're actually going to use our knife. And you take your knife and you're going to draw straight down into the foot. Give it that cloven hoof kind of look. There. Alright, so we got, come on baby. Come on, there, see? Get your cloven hoof going. Alright, now this guy's gonna sit and dry for a few minutes. Because he's done. Not done finished, but he's at least started. So let's take one of these guys, and I'll kind of show you what I do to help with these poxwalkers kind of becoming beastmen. Now I use, for me right now, I'm actually using some of this brown stuff, which I'm not a huge fan of brown stuff, but I clicked the bad order when I was ordering. I order all my stuff from Green Stuff World. So I got rolls and rolls of this brown stuff. So I'm kind of using it up as I see fit. But the thing about the brown stuff is it's stickier than green stuff. And I'm not so sure that it sticks any better. I was told, or at least I think I read, that it dried harder than green stuff, so it had a better consistency. I actually feel like it dries softer than green stuff, and I've mixed it with milliput when I'm sculpting stuff, which eventually I'll show you guys how I sculpt things, because it's really lazy, but it's alright for someone who's not very good like me. We got some green stuff still. Should probably use that green stuff real quick. Waste not, want not, right? Alright, let's pick a head real quick. And we'll knock out one more of these guys before we get too far into it, because I don't want to waste the green stuff. So we're gonna, there we go. Oops, it's turned over. There you go. So let's see. We wanna. Does this have a lower jaw? Yeah, it does, but not very well. All right, we're gonna go with this guy. You know what? Actually, this is a good thing I'm redoing this, because I'm going to show you guys how I do jaws. We're going to cut his head off right at the base. In fact, we kind of take a little bit more than the base for him, because we're going to kind of do it a little bit different than what I did before. We're going to add quite a bit of green stuff to him, like this. Okay. So you see how there's quite a bit of green stuff there? And so we're going to take that and we're going to put him on here, making sure that he fits, and we're going to press him down, which is going to kind of make a bulbous section for his head. And see how it bulges underneath his body there? Worry not, for the Nurgle loves you. And I'm going to be pulling some of this green stuff off. But I wanted that bulb, because I'll show you what I do for his jaw. So we're going to pad this in and stick that head down to the body. And it's alright if you get green stuff spread out over the back end, because I'm going to show you how to do fur here. This fur can be used for anything. It's fur is stupid easy once you get the technique down. A lot of people that will ask about furs. I'll show you how to make a fur, like a fur, what's the word? Pelt. A lot of people worried about fur pelts. Okay. So I shape this bulbousy part so it falls right underneath his jaw, because I'm going to be adding a jaw onto it. Oh, come on. Come on, baby. Where's my focus? Focus, focus, focus. There you go. Come on. Getting it? There. Anyways. So I get it sticking out underneath his jaw. It kind of makes it look fat there. Yeah, there you go. See that? Alright. Now, here's the tricky part. They give you jaws as part of the skull pack, but look how small they are. See them? Itty bitty little jaws. Now, I could technically use kind of maybe these orc jaws. You know, they're a little heavier. But I haven't felt like, I tried one and I didn't feel like it looked very solid. So I always joke that it costs me 2 jaws for every 1 guy I do, because I inevitably lose one. Every time I make it, because these guys are itty bitty, little jaws, very fragile. They will bust on you very quickly. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this jaw, I'm going to set it right underneath his jaw, the green stuff that we just made, right? Okay, you see how it's sitting there? Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start pulling it back and working the jaw into the green stuff and pushing it back onto there. And what you're wanting is green stuff to kind of come out between the mouth and the top of the and the top part of the skull. And then now what I do, I'm going through, slowly pulling green stuff away from the jaw that I have set. So it articulates the jaw out, and I just pull it away from the jaw. And I do it in little bitty pieces. I'm being very, very fragile with it. Because like I said, the jaw is wickedly fragile and small. So I'm just slowly pulling all the green stuff away underneath it. See, some of it's okay. Some of it's alright, because we're going to turn that into fur. And that won't be a big deal. I'll show you how to do fur. I actually don't think green stuff is as good as fur. Fur as brown stuff is. Brown stuff's stickier, but it's softer. And so it falls out, it comes out quicker with your blade. It doesn't hold on as strong. I'm going to pull this jaw forward just a little bit, so that, pull this jaw forward just a tad here, so that it has that. I'm going to take just a little bit out of the mouth. Mouth has got a little bit too much green stuff in it. This looks like he's throwing up, which actually that wouldn't be bad, right? Because it's a Nurgle guy. But I'm just gonna slowly pull his teeth, pull this space right here between the jaw and the mouth. And you don't want to be too hard on it, because if you're too hard on it, then you'll rip the head off or the jaw. Filming is a little weird. I'm trying to stay out of the picture so you guys can see what I'm doing, but at the same time I'm having to get to these weird little angles. I'm just working patiently through the mouth here. There you go. There, that actually looks like muscle, so we're going to leave it. Yeah. Alright. see? So it kind of looks like his mouth is open, and he kind of has that horse face. There we go, yep. That looks pretty good. So we're going to let him dry as well. Alright, so we got our 2 drying. We got 2 that we're going to do some fur on. Now fur, like I said, is relatively easy. And for these guys, I don't put a heck of a lot all over the place. And I'm not trying to make it too bulky, but you need a little bit of bulk in the brown stuff when you put it on him. So like we're going to make his back furry. So we're going to push on this brown fur so it sticks. And if it lays over, it lays over. This is kind of how you would do like a cloak, which a lot of Pestigores wear cloaks. Kind of like I said, they usually only have 1 horn and sometimes 1 eye. Kind of look like plague bears. But you can get custom. You can get custom Pestigores right now on made to order on Games Workshop. You kind of want to see how those look. It's kind of the older deal. Now what I'm going to do here is I put it on his back, so you kind of need shoulder blades. Now we're going to tear these shoulder blades out, but if you do kind of a base level shoulder blade, you'll thank yourself later because it kind of wants to look like it's hanging off the bone, right? It's not on there. There's not a lot of muscle underneath it, right? So we're gonna just essentially, that's our guy right there. If we could get it to focus, come on, focus. Hopefully you can kind of see what we're doing here. Yeah. Hey, and I have someone on my stream. Anti-hero broadcast. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Sorry it's out of focus. I don't know how to make it focus better. But anywho, so what as we moving right along here. Sorry, hopefully you didn't leave on me. I've been, if you did, I'm sorry, bro. I appreciate the chat, though. Okay, so here's how you make fur. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're just going to pick at you're going to just randomly pick at the fur, right? Using the blade up. So I'm going to use the blade up, and I'm just going to, it's like a little circular motion. What I'm doing here is I'm doing a little jabby here. And I tend to start at the bottom and work up. I think that tends to work a little better. But I'm just picking the brown stuff out. Right? And I'm not too careful about how I do it. You just don't want it to be in straight lines. Because fur is not in straight lines, right? So you just stick it in here. And it's very quick, very fast process. The other thing is to not get too aggressive about making it perfect, right? Some of us try to overwork it a little bit. It's kind of like dough. You don't want to overwork the dough. So let's see. Come on. There. You see? Come on. Yeah. Right? And what you end up getting is you get these little pokies sticking out of the, and you don't want any edges. So be sure you go through and you catch any of these edges or any seams that may be in there, because you want it to look as though it's sitting on top of their body, but not. There we go. Yeah, there's just a little bit of a seam there. There we go, just like that, just like that. Yep. Now, I need like an alarm that says when people are watching my thing, because I'm so used to nobody watching these that when someone actually does, and then they turn around and leave. But that's alright. I need to get better at watching that kind of stuff. So we're gonna put some fur. Let's do some fur on the bottom of his pants. And he's got some pants down there. I didn't put hooves on this guy. I don't put hooves on all of my beastmen because they're kind of a mix and match. So you don't need to put hooves everywhere. But I do enjoy watching them. Hey, I have two people. Welcome. So I'm making Pestigores. So the fur I'm going to put underneath his pants, like it's coming out from underneath his pants here. Let's get my tool. My tool here. Pull away some of this excess brown stuff. And like I said, I like the brown stuff better for this kind of thing. I don't like brown stuff as a whole, but I have found a use for it. Ooh, I was pushing a little too hard. A wee bit, just a wee bit too hard. Okay, so, alright, so what we're doing is I'm pushing into, I'm wrapping this brown stuff around his leg, and then trying to kill the seams underneath his pant leg, because this fur is gonna look like it's coming out of his pants onto his leg here. So I want it to be a little smoother. I'm gonna pull some of this excess off. There we go. Yeah, I don't like brown stuff, but brown stuff is good for fur. If you're looking to make fur, I would recommend brown stuff because it makes wicked easy fur, wicked quick. Okay, so once we have our piece down, then like I say, to make fur, you blade up and towards the top, and you start at the bottom and you go in this little circle motion, and you just pick at the brown stuff. And you're just picking at it, and it'll make it have this, you know, chaotic, random, sharp edge. Because fur is kind of a sharp thing, right? It's small. It's not rounded or cute. So we just go through here and make sure we have no edges. Right, there we go. Just chop the crap out of the fur. Don't overdo it too much. Focus. It's focused. Right, just trying to focus. Stupid thing. I might get a second camera and like set it to focus so I can put the model underneath it. Let's do some fur. So something I like to do too is I'll take little patches instead of these big patches like on his back, because you don't want to destroy the whole model. The model's actually a pretty cool little model, and I really like these newer models. Back in the olden days, the detail was not near this good. Granted, it was more in line with my painting abilities back then. But we're going to take a little piece of fur and we're going to just put it right there on his rib cage right there. So, yeah, so I'm not trying to hide the whole thing. I'm just wanting to add some fur so it's believable that he's a beastman. Even though this guy's kind of a bloodletter. He's kind of bloodletter of Nurgle. And I just push this down in here, smooth it out a little bit, define up the muscle so it looks like it's still part of his body and it's shaping around the muscles that he's got. It doesn't have to run. Yeah. Oh, that wasn't too bad. Okay. I have a really bad habit of sticking my fingers in my fur. Oh. But we get on here, and we push it down, and we don't leave. You can leave a little bit of, like, it can look like it's coming off. And the reason is because you think about it like if you've ever seen an animal that has mange, how the fur is like molting and coming off. But I like to put it in patches, and then I just pick it up. Just make sure you get all the edges. That's the biggest part, is just making sure you start at the bottom, use your blade and pick that up, and then make sure you get the edges, because you don't, the top edge is less of a concern, I guess, because you just want to tear up the brown stuff, and you don't do it in a line, you just tear stuff up randomly, work your way through it. See, it's a relatively simple and easy process, especially when you're converting poxwalkers. You don't want to be spending too much time on these dudes. You will. I mixed way too much brown stuff. I hate wasting crap. I really do. It's just kind of my thing. But I'll just now actually. So this guy, let's go back to our corn meat guy. What I did with him is the poxwalker already had his mouth open. So I just cut the poxwalker's head in half. And then just set the bloodletter head on there. I think that's bloodletter. That doesn't have the back elongation on it. So I don't know. We're going to say it's a Pestigore, because that's what I do. Nurgle does not approve of corn. Alright, so same old, same old. Now this patch we're going to just run down the side. We're not going to run this whole back. Like I said, don't get in the habit of doing the same thing. It's kind of the thing with Nurgle, right? Everybody should be a little bit different. So you can take the same model, put different heads, and actually what we'll do is we'll probably cut this guy's arm off. Yeah, I want to cut this guy's arm off. And I'll show you something else I'm going to do. So we're going to cut these. Something I'd really like to do at some point is get to where I have a regular like hobby time, but it's on Hangouts, and then get people to come and do hobby with me, because I do hobby by myself when the kids are asleep, because I can't focus otherwise. And so getting people to come and we all get on Hangouts and just bullshit and make models, and that'd be a lot of fun, I think. Asking a lot of folks to have a set time to do things. Everybody's got so much going on these days. Yeah. Come on. There we go. Sometimes if it really is giving you a hard time, if you pull back and don't go so deep, just slice and pull. That'll look fine as well. Like I said, this brown stuff is sticky, but it's not very strong. It has molted fur, right? So it's not even really that much. Now, what I was thinking about doing, and I think we'll probably do it with this guy, is I have some old school skeletons that I inherited. I got about 200 of them. I'll turn them into poxwalkers as well, actually. But I'm gonna put a bell. A little bell arm. We're gonna put it on this guy, I think. Yeah, that'll work. I always put my fingers in my fur, man. I cut that out. Sometimes, actually, so if you want kind of more of a sleeker looking fur, what you can do is you do the same technique, and then you just gently take your finger and you just pat it down, and it'll still look like fur, but it'll look clean. So if you just, a little pat, make it look clean. Donde clippers. Alright, so we're taking this at the upper arm, shoulder. After I just put that fur there, but I do this all the time, where I decide to change my mind. I've been kind of wanting to put a bell on somebody. I lost an arm. We'll be searching for that arm later. The only thing I don't like is that hand. It's massive. I guess that's the old Warhammer type hand. They kind of exaggerated features back in the olden days. And this hand, if you notice, the hand is just freaking huge. It's totally disproportionate. Yep. Lost our viewer. That's alright though. I appreciate them watching the short time that they did. What I'd like to do is these kit bashes where we talk about the lore, we talk about the whatever it is we're talking about, but then also consider the then kit bash the model while we're talking about it, which is basically what we're doing today, right? Today's our first kit bash, or lore bash. We're kit bashing our Pestigores, right? But there we go. Yeah, that doesn't look horrible. Ooh, that's dangerous. Alright, so we go back in here. We pick out this green stuff. Now see, I don't think green stuff picks out as easy as brown stuff does. There we go. There. So we got our bell on there now. But like I said, you see the fist, it's since it's old hammer, the fist is it's disproportionate. Yeah. So, but as you can see, converting Pestigores is relatively simple. a relatively easy process that gives some flair to your poxwalkers. And the Pestigores are, I mean, the Beastmen are still a part of the Empire. Like I say, the thing is though, is there's been a lot of ethnic cleansing going on over the last 20 years. It's kind of like rattlings. Rattlings are liked a little bit more because at least they look human. The Imperium liked Beastmen because they were good workers. They were good, strong workers. So they kept them around. They were an acceptable mutant. And so, I mean, technically, if you wanted, you could probably make a Beastmen IG unit. Yeah. They've been seen less and less because the Imperial citizens don't like them as much. So it makes for an interesting little poxwalker. And with only 16 or so types of poxwalker, I think it's 10 in the kits. And then there's a few in the custom build, easy build. So anyways. So with only 16, you kind of got to look for other stuff. Looking at some of the ghouls from Age of Sigmar. I've been really debating bringing like a 200 like a 200 poxwalker army, like a couple sorcerers, and call it good. Just let the poxwalkers do their thing. Although if you were going to do that, Nurglings, poxwalkers and Nurglings would probably be the most annoying army out there, because those Nurglings, you know, they recoup wounds. Every turn. So they're pretty... Jeez Louise. Just jacked up my hoof. Because that's what I do. Like I say, I stick my fingers in my molding a good chunk of the day. Which means I get a lot of practice molding. But still, it's annoying. See, like I said, for the hoof, you just put a glove on there and you slowly work it around to a point. Well, really, even just a circle. Then you take your blade and you put it down the middle of the hoof. You have a nice little hoof. You can even pull this out just a little bit. There. And we're going to let him dry. We're going to stop touching him. Alright, well, it has been an hour. Thank you for joining me for the first lore bash. Sorry there wasn't much on Pestigores. There really isn't. They were first mentioned for Warhammer back in, like, I did some research just for this stream just to make sure I didn't miss something, but they were first mentioned in like 1988 and 1990, and then they really weren't mentioned again. They're seen again in the Warhammer Fantasy as Beastmen, and then with the new Beastmen Codex, I think it's been essentially the there's formations, right? There's not actual, you know, Pestigores. But but yeah, nonetheless, you can still have Pestigores in your 40k army. As you can see, even now, when you take your Pestigores and you mix them with your normal bros. They fit really well. They give you like they give you something interesting, an interesting look about them. So, anyways, had 2 old watchers this time. That's better than we've had yet. So we're still growing and working on it. If you like this, you know, please leave a comment, subscribe, pass it on to your friends, something like that. If this sucked and you weren't interested, because I'm thinking we'll do this more. I'll have to look at what we're going to do next week. There's other kit bashing projects that I want to do. We will do it again next week. Please like and subscribe if that's what you'd like to do. And I appreciate all of you. May Nurgle bless you.